Welcome back, CNG 132 to Monday, June 15th. This week we start another chapter in our book, Chapter 6, Network Design, Devices, Technologies to help secure your network. We talk about, I think the easiest device that everyone looks at is a firewall. Firewalls are, one of the first devices. Firewall. Apologies. Firewalls are one of the first devices that we look at. Oops, I want to say firewall. For security, when we think about a network, and probably the initial thought of a firewall is that we take a look at here. This firewall, hey, this is a good example. We put the firewall in the front. Then the internet's always hitting that firewall, and then everything in the firewall is connected to a switch, and then our servers on the switch, workstations are on the switch. A great security topology in this sense. In this image here, another great image, we see the firewall is after a DMZ zone. So we do see a web server and a mail server outside the firewall. Then that information goes through the firewall to get into workstation, netware server. They don't say any sort of, I guess netware server could be your domain controller, etc. Here is another version of a DMZ. Once again, a different take on how it's set up, the topology of it. We see the internet firewall going into the DMZ zone, a firewall then coming out into the I want to say the internal LANs of the building. Once again, many different variations you can do for setting up security in your organization. And here we have another three-legged firewall. A firewall feeding into the DMZ, then feeding into the internal network itself. All great, all have different functions. If you're looking at cost, of course, the one with two firewalls would definitely increase the cost of just one with the firewall. But you have to really look at the design of your network, what you're trying to achieve in this design. What else do we talk about? I think we talk about network access control, data loss prevention, and this week we only covered one chapter, so if you did fall behind last week with the double chapters, make sure to get that work in. We have a test coming up next week in week 5. It should cover chapters 5 through 8. Once again, if you did miss the test, there's always the chance to bring up your score through Kaplan. You should be rehearsing Kaplan at this point. You want to achieve a score of 70 or better, and that Kaplan will boost your test grades to 100%. When I ask for those submissions, you submit that Kaplan screenshot, and then I go ahead and change your scores from whatever they were to 100%, but you have to beat a score of 70. You have to achieve a score of 70 or better. Let's see, and if you're behind on anything, any sort of discussions, projects, assignments, oh, that reminds me, we have 2 new things this week: lab simulation and digital forensics. Of course, the lab simulation, give yourself about an hour to do this. It'll walk you through step by step. Make sure that you do not skip a step. It's not a race for this one. I think some students' issues with this is they skip a step. 6.2, you click it and it should, hopefully they got this moved. It's supposed to be in chapter 14. That's really where it belongs. Okay, it might have been in chapter 14. So how you get to chapter 14? At this menu here, you click the drop down arrow on part 6. Click chapter 14, unit 14. Go down to Live Virtual Lab Simulations and then click Introduction to Digital Forensics. I'll have to go through and grab this score manually. This is a really good lab. I pulled a lot out of it and think you guys will get just as much out of it when you do it. So make sure to get that done. Definitely worth a good chunk of your grade, since it's the only live virtual machine lab or lab that we do. If you have any questions, make sure to reach out through Google Hangouts, and have a great week.